Before we apply the first set of criteria, what's called first normal form, often shortened to 1NF, I'm taking it as a given that we already have our columns and our primary keys specified. Okay, first normal form says that each of your columns and each of your tables should contain one value, just one value, and there should be no repeating groups. Okay, what does this actually mean? Well, let's say I begin developing a database for my company, and one of my tables is an employee table. Very simple stuff. Employee ID, last name, first name, and so on. And we allocate every employee a computer. I want to keep track of that, so we'll add a computer serial column to keep track of who has what. Now, this is actually okay right now. This technically is in first normal form. Here's the problem. Let's say I figure out that some of our employees need a Mac and a PC to do their testing. Others need a desktop and a laptop. So several people have multiple computers, and I want to keep track of all of them. There is a couple of ways that I could deal with this. I could just start stuffing extra data into that one column. We could start putting commas or vertical bars or any other delimiter and put in multiple values in the one computer serial column. Well, this is just something you just don't do in relational database design. We're violating first normal form. Understand that relational databases will happily deal with hundreds of tables. Each table could have hundreds of columns and millions of rows, but they do not want columns that have a variable amount of values. Perhaps there's one value, perhaps there's two in it, perhaps there's 10. Each column in each row should have one and only one value. Now, could you do it this way? Sure. Technically, if that column was defined as character data, the database wouldn't stop you from entering commas and multiple values into it. But as far as the database is concerned, it's still just one value that just happens to have commas in it. So you would find it hard to search directly for a serial number. You'd find it hard to sort. You'd find it hard to maintain. So it's not in first normal form if you do this, because first normal form demands that every column, every field, contains one and only one value. So what we might do then is go back to the original way and instead start adding new columns. So computer serial 2, computer serial 3. This is what's called a repeating group, and there should be no repeating groups. The classic sign of a repeating group column is a column with the same name and the number tacked onto the end of it just to make it unique, because usually this is a sign of an inflexible design. Sure, if we could guarantee that there would only ever be 2 or 3, that's fine. But what happens when we want to add the tablet and the smartphone? What happens when one employee manages testing and needs to be associated with 6 computers? We don't want to require a change to the database schema just because we buy a new computer. So what do we do here? Well, what we do is the same thing for a lot of these normalization steps. We'll take this data out of the employee table and put it in its own table. This then has relationships. We create a one-to-many relationship between employee and this new computer, or it could be called an asset table or whatever else makes sense. And it has a foreign key back to the employee table. I can take any employee ID like 551, follow it to the computer table and find his 2 computers, or 553, find his 3 computers. There's no repeating values, no repeating groups in either table, and this would get us into first normal form. Now, it's very common that the solution to a normalization issue is to create a new table. Sometimes it's a one-to-many relationship like this. Other times it might even require a many-to-many with a linking table.